first opportunity to meet Barry McCarthy. So welcome, Barry.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, Barry.
Normally, the Ireland India Business Association, we do try and do something with Cricket Ireland. And we do try and do something when you're actually playing as well. So it's great to have you static so that we can ask you questions. As we have such an elite group here today, I thought it would be helpful if you just told us a little bit about yourself, like why are you playing cricket? What brought you to bring cricket? And then after I've asked you a few questions, I'm going to open it up to the floor. See if any of those questions have actually sparked up any other questions. I hope you're up for that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I suppose a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Dublin. Played cricket down in Pembroke Cricket Club my whole life. My dad got me into the game when I was, whenever I could walk, really, just tipped away then. And it's funny how things change. I would have played back when I was in the under-9s tournaments with just friends and people who would have always had a family member having been involved in sport, whether it be their mum, their dad, their uncle, an older brother or something, and that sort of changed now where Ireland are integrated into schools now and stuff. Probably gone a little bit off track there, but yeah, I played down in Pembroke my whole life, played through the Irish underage systems, didn't play in every age group. I didn't make the under 17s, squeezed into the under 19s. I never really thought cricket was something I was going to do long term. Did an undergraduate degree in UCD and tipped away playing some cricket training on the weekends, and then got an opportunity to go to England at the age of 23 and spent 4 years there, and that really helped me develop and get a love for cricket. And that sort of brought me to where I am now. Been lucky enough to get the opportunity to play international cricket, and I see a couple of good years ahead of me. Please God, all going well, and we can get back out there playing some sport.
So what made you decide to choose cricket?
Well, it wasn't just cricket. My dad got me into cricket when I was younger. He played at what he'll tell you and is a high level, where now club cricket is probably not the highest level. And I always seem to remind him of that. But yeah, I played cricket, played football as a young, in my younger years. And then as I went to secondary school, I went to St. Michael's, which is definitely more so nowadays for its rugby. Played a little bit of rugby in school, but there was never a future there for me in that. So yeah, it was cricket the whole way for me.
Okay, and you said you went to Durham when you were 23.
Yeah.
What was your experience there? You were saying just before we started, you said that you had to play in the snow for a start. But tell me, what was your experience as a cricketer, showing up and playing for Durham?
Yeah, playing in county cricket was never something that really was on the agenda growing up. It was always, you watch Ireland play on TV, and it was always I wanted to play for Ireland. And it's funny how these things come about. I was training in Malahide one day before the Ireland-England game in 2013, and I ended up bowling a net session to Ben Stokes, who took me aside after and asked me if I'd like to come over to Durham and get a chance to show my potential over there. To be honest, at the time I thought he was joking, but they followed up with it 6 months later, and I went over, played a couple of games, and spent 4 brilliant years there, and 4 years that were a great experience for me. I've always lived at home up until that stage, and I was thrown across to the water to England and had to fend for myself. But a great learning experience in that sense. But when in terms of cricket, playing the volume of cricket that they play over there in county cricket, whether it be first or second team, you're just exposed, and that's where you really at an age where you're trying to still learn your own game, and by playing all that hours of cricket, you can do as much stuff on the training ground as you can, but you don't really learn anything until you're on the field to play. And from that side of things, it was great to get the experience from that side of things. But met some great people, and that sort of set me up. I don't think I would be the cricketer I am now without that experience, having played 4 years in England.
So I understand the rules have changed now. So there's what's that going to mean for Irish cricketers? Because you'll be going to be competing with other international players to play county cricket. Is that right?
Yeah. So 2017, I think it was, Ireland got test status, which put us in the category with every other nation in the world when in terms of county cricket, where you're allowed one overseas player, apart from the T20 competition where you're allowed two. So when I was playing in England, I was playing as a local player, essentially. So the overseas category didn't come into it. From that side of things, yeah, it's disappointing not being able to play in England. I personally found it very worthwhile and a great development in my career. But on the flip side of it, Ireland have the opportunity now to play some Test cricket. Not very often, but we have the opportunity to play some Test cricket with a lot more fixtures on that side of things as well. So it's disappointing, but you have to put it in perspective, and you can't really have everything both ways. And it was a great time for me to get the opportunity to go there. Some of the young guys won't get that opportunity now, but they'll get the other opportunities now. We've got a pretty strong interprovincial competition here. There's a lot of competition in terms of the Wolves cricket's a great program now as well. And guys are knocking on the door at international level. And it's more of a level playing field, I'd say, because guys aren't out of the shop window away in England, out of sight, out of mind of the selectors. So it's it has its pros and its cons, but it's for the best, and we've got all our players playing in Ireland now. Apart from it was great to see a couple of guys get an overseas gig there in September for the T20 competition over there, and hopefully that was a starting point for some more Irish players to go and play as overseas players. But in terms of signing as the individual overseas in the UK, it's probably not something that's going to happen.
So what's that going to mean in terms of for the development of the game for Ireland? Because there was always that opportunity. You summed it up quite well yourself. You said that you went and it gave you huge experience that you may not have had if you'd not gone over there. So what does that mean in terms of developing? You talked about the provincial game, but it's all as it's all about grassroots and who's developing and how, what momentum there is. So what does that mean for Ireland now?
Yeah, well, it gives them full control of their playing pool. I found it very beneficial, and like I said earlier, more so from just the exposure and the amount of cricket you play. If you play a full county season in the UK, I think you can play up to 95 to 100 days of cricket if you're in all competitions, which is a lot of cricket. And when you're a young kid growing up, that's how you learn your trade. On the field, you have to work things out for yourself. Where here it was a little bit different transitioning over here. I think with the weather aside, if you're lucky, you can play up to 25 to 30 days here max in a season, which it's fine. That's where it is at the moment. And that's, if we look at the long-term strategy for Cricket Ireland, I'd say they want to get to an area where they can give guys as much cricket as they can. And we only have 3 teams at the moment. So, 25 games of cricket, you play against the same guys a lot, which is good. But I found a transition from being in England, having played a lot of cricket and not having a lot of training, to coming back here and having more training sessions to get yourself ready for the cricket over here was a little bit different. But even in the 2 years since I've been back here, it's certainly turned up a gear, and it's been a lot more professional. We've a lot more cricket ourselves on the international side of things. If you are an international cricketer, obviously apart from this year, it's been a little bit different for everyone. But from playing interprovincial cricket and international cricket, your calendar's pretty full, so there probably wouldn't even be the opportunity to go over to England and play any of those in those competitions.
So you've talked about this year. What for you personally, how has this year been? Because it's been a different year for everyone, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was really, really looking forward to this year. I had a pretty disappointing year in 2019. Just from my own standards, I was injured at the wrong times, got sick at the wrong time, and was just really gearing up for a good, strong year. And we had a good trip out to the West Indies in January. We only got 1 win there, but we were very close in one of the other ODIs. and we sort of set the bar quite high for ourselves. And we went over to India in March and had a really good series against Afghanistan. We beat them for the first time in a T20, I think, in 10 years. So we were really on the right track. And then, obviously, as we're all aware, COVID hit in the middle of March and sort of put a stop to everything. But I personally, it was kind of nice to. I felt January, February, March, albeit 3 months, I was kind of go in terms of cricket, and it was nice to just sort of sit back for a second. And I think everyone was. Well, we were certainly under the illusion it was probably just sit tight for a week or two, and you'll probably get on the trip to Zimbabwe, all things going well. And then it sort of became evident that this is going to be more of a long-term thing as stuff started to get cancelled in the pipeline. Personally, I started an MBA in the previous year, so I was kind of able to focus on something else, where I kind of did feel for the guys who had nothing else to do and wanted to give everything to the cricket. They had no choice but to sort of sit and hold tight, and to sit and hold tight for 6 months, and it can be quite difficult. But it was a really nice to get those games against England, and when we got back training, it gave us a bit of purpose to hit the ground running and be ready for those games in England in July. And it was great to get the win. Would have liked 3 wins against them, but being realistic, to chase 330 against England over there was remarkable. And again, it's sort of just carrying on from where we started the year in the West Indies and in India against Afghanistan. And we've got a big series coming up now in January, so that's sort of given a bit of purpose to the last couple of weeks training. I think it'd be a bit deflating if we were still under the illusion of we're not sure what's coming down the line. But yeah, it's been a different year. But from a personal side of things, I've managed to switch my my thoughts to some other things. I did some work experience and focused on my studies. So yeah, that was nice. But I'm ready to get back now, playing some cricket in the new year. All going well, please God.
Excellent. Yeah, because 20 years ago, when I used to go to India, nobody knew about Ireland. They used to mistake Ireland with Iceland. They used to, all sorts of things. Nobody knew about Ireland. And then Ireland had a couple of famous wins in India. And as a result of which, everybody knows the Irish cricket team now. Everybody, as soon as you start talking about, see, everybody's everybody's nodding on this call. So Ireland's got a great reputation, and you've had quite a few businesses sponsor the cricket team as well, haven't you? From Indian businessmen. Tell me, what's that meant for Cricket Ireland?
Well, it's been great from a commercial side of things. Obviously Cricket Ireland can't really survive. They get their funding from the ICC, but it's always nice to get some sponsorship from any companies. And we've been very, very lucky to have a lot of Indian companies on board. And just it's a really good market to be involved in, the cricket over here. If I think back to Ireland playing India, as Rohit mentioned earlier, in Malahide back in 2017, I think it was 2017. It was the most viewed event around the world that's ever been held on Irish soil. So to put that in perspective, there's been a lot of landmark events here, and for that to be the most viewed events ever on Irish soil is pretty remarkable. And for the exposure for the company side of things, and for cricket in the country as well, it was great, because we sort of go under the radar here as a sort of minor sport. We're competing with rugby, the likes of rugby, soccer, and then the 2 Gaelic sports. So it's difficult in that regard. So nice to get noticed in that sense. But from a commercial side of things, the exposure that companies can get from being involved with Irish cricket is massive.
I remember that match. The IIBA had a lunch there on one of the days, and everybody talks about it as the best event that they attended, because the atmosphere was so great, wasn't it? There were so many people there. The weather was to die for. It was incredible, and it was just a fantastic event. So hopefully you'll have many more events like that. I'm going to open the session up for questions from everybody. So if people can raise their hand in the old analog way, I will call them up, and if you then unmute yourself, you can ask Barry a question. So who'd like to go first?
Okay. Hi, Barry. I'm Richard Breen. Other than Malahide, in which country has the biggest crowd turned up for one of your events? Is it India?
Well, I think playing England at Lords in front of a full house in 2017 was certainly the biggest I've played in front of. But from speaking to some of the guys, we played in India. We haven't played India in India. We've played Afghanistan in India on some smaller grounds, but there has been a massive fan base turning out for those games. But from speaking to some of the guys who played in World Cups in India, they say they can't hear each other speaking from 10 meters apart because it's so loud. So in terms of from taking other people's opinions on it and their perspective on it, it is definitely be India. But from my personal experience, having played England at Lords, that would be it. But hopefully get to a World Cup in October in India, and the answer will be different to that question.
Yeah. And where was in 2019? Where was that game you played in India? It was in India against Bangladesh.
Yeah, it was in Greater Noida.
All right, okay.
Greater Noida. So we've played there. That's the second time I've been to Greater Noida, and in 2018 we went to Dehradun.
Okay.
So a little further north. But yeah, we're always welcomed with open arms in India, and it seems to be obviously India is their number one sporting team, but it seems to be like we're their second nation that they like to follow, which is great because we get a good fan base when we go.
It's infectious. I found whenever I travel across a few times, and then outside the Delhi High Court, for example, the Mumbai High Court, there's this massive, it's not quite the size of the Phoenix Park, but there's a huge park, maybe 5 times the length of Stephen's Green, and it's effectively cricket, crease after crease, and it's just a melee, and it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it really is, and we're over here, and I'm living with a couple of guys who play professional rugby, and they'd be pretty big role models over here for kids growing up and stuff, and as cricketers over here, it's a minority sport, which is kind of nice because if you can go, if you have a bad day, it's not publicized over here, and you're quite quiet, whereas when you go to India, everyone knows who Kevin O'Brien is, Paul Sterling's, where they probably haven't heard of the Johnny Sextons of this world. But so it's nice to go over there and to see how big cricket is over there and put it in perspective. It's always nice to give back. I like to bring over as much cricket gear as I can because I've got stuff from Durham, stuff from Ireland over the years that just grows in the attic. So I like to bring it over, and that's probably why I get in a bit of trouble for the old baggage allowance when we go to India. But it's nice to just give back to the guys who come down session after session and bowl the nets. It's nice to show your appreciation in that regard and give them a little bit of a token whenever you can.
Who'd like to ask a question now? Rohit.
So thank you, NilaKanthi. Rohit is my name, from a company called Target Integration, based here in Dublin in City West. So Barry, what's your favorite format? T20 or 50 over 1 day, full day?
I'll have to be honest with you. It's the one you didn't mention there. It's the longer form of the game. I think obviously. I'm answering that question as a bowler, and I think anyone who's watched the IPL or any short form of the game these days, it's turning into a game of baseball, and it's not very nice to watch as a bowler. So I wouldn't mind a red duke in my hand in early April over in Ireland to give me a bit of a chance. But no, I've played a fair bit of red ball cricket, and probably more so in England. I just like it's more of the complete format of the game. You really have to work for a longer period of time. It takes out the element of luck. And hopefully in the next couple of years I can get myself a test cap and we can play some more red ball cricket. But for the moment, obviously I do enjoy some T20 cricket, trying to come up with strategies to cope with these cricketers who are now turning into baseball players. It's remarkable. So it's a challenge in that sense, but it's exciting. And obviously from a fan's perspective, I'm sure that the shorter form of the game is more appealing to them.
Well, it's appealing because I think it's shorter form, and everybody's so used to of this quick 90-minute session and then another 90-minute session. But is 50-over match not too tiring for a lot of players? It's a full day.
Yeah, it is, especially as a bowler. The difference between bowling 4-over spell and T20 cricket and 10 overs is quite a big difference as a bowler, especially when you take into account playing in some countries where it can be extremely hot.
Yeah.
But it is tiring. But I suppose that's why we train, and we train to be ready for those full day long spells. We're going away in January to play in 7. I think it is 6 or 7 one-day international matches. So I need to be ready to. My body needs to be ready to take that load. So that's what we're training for at the moment. We spend a day on our feet. Rugby players and everyone else are accustomed to spending 80 minutes. It's just how you train. So yeah, people who aren't used to training for a day's graft, I suppose, on the cricket field, but it does get easier. The first run out is always a little bit stiff, and it's hard to get out of bed the next morning, especially as I get a little bit older now. But
don't worry.
I know. I like that. That's why I said that. I like to be told I'm nice and young.
And my last question, and then I'll let everybody else jump in. You're a family of cricketers. Your sister plays as well.
She does indeed. I think she's certainly got more caps than me at the moment, which is something that I need to change. And she reminds me every year and every day nearly. But now she's played I think 60 games for Ireland, 60, 70 games for Ireland, which is great. But now she's stepped away for the moment. I think she had plans to come back and try and play a little bit more for Ireland this year, but obviously the women have had a pretty difficult time of late, and they haven't played now in 14 months. I think it's disappointing. They were supposed to go away to La Manga last week, and unfortunately that got cancelled at the last minute. So you really have to feel for them. But yeah, Louise she's now working in Blackrock Clinic as a radiographer, and hopefully if things go back to normal now, she can start training during the summer and be able to do a little bit of both, because I think she's got a little bit more to give.
Derek.
Thank you, Kanthi. Firstly, I have to declare my allegiance. I went to St. Michael's as well, so Barry went to a very good school. Secondly, behind every great cricketer, and I just salute what Barry has achieved, there's a family. And I know his parents very well, but they have gone through huge highs, lows, and have been not 100% behind him. They've 1,000% behind him, both his parents and his brother and sister. But and I also know, I think you're sharing with Luke McGrath, is it?
It's Dan Levy. I'm living with
Dan Levy. So you look at injury. So that really is my theme. You look at a guy like Dan Levy, who went through a horrific injury and has gone through a massive rehab. Obviously, I was watching you bowl for Ireland against England in Lords, and then you got injured. So 2 questions. A, how do you prevent injury, if there is such a thing? And secondly, more importantly, how do you recover from injury, both physically and psychologically? Because that obviously is the key for anyone having a prolonged cricketing or indeed a sporting career. And when you look at someone like Dan Levy, and what, maybe just to give people a little bit of the Dan Levy story separately, Barry.
Yeah, Dan was remarkable in the 2018 Six Nations for Ireland. He was probably Ireland's greatest rugby player at the time. And he suffered a horrific knee injury. He was in a ruck and got taken out from the side, and his knee was very, very badly injured, and potentially at the time it was potentially career ending. But he got the procedures done on it, and I've only been living with Dan for the last 6 months, just for the back end of his rehab. But I've known him for a long time, and to see the dedication he put into getting himself back on the field, setting little goals in between that, and to be honest, I can't really compare. I've had injuries, yes, but to see the extent of the injury that he went to, and having spoken to him about it, there were certainly dark days along the way, but I sort of felt a sense of great achievement to see him get on the park there 6 weeks ago, and I know it was very emotional for him and his family to get back out there playing. But I think, you know, having seen Dan go through his injury, it sort of gave me put it in perspective to me, where, you know, I did my knee there back in July, and, you know, it turned out to be a little bit worse than it was, and I'm only sort of getting back to training now. But, you know, to put it in the grand scheme of things, and living with someone like Dan who was out for 18 months, it sort of puts it in perspective that I'm lucky it wasn't a little bit worse than it was. It can always be worse. That's how I looked at it. But in terms of preventing injuries, I think it's very, very difficult as a bowler. You know, I think people, and that comes back to people in Ireland especially, being a little bit, I'd say, uneducated on, you know, the sport itself. It's probably not known the magnitude of what you can put, what force goes through your body as a fast bowler. You know, I'm 90 kilos, and, you know, I can put up to 10 to 12 times my body weight through my joints every single delivery. So you can imagine the force that's putting on us. Freak injuries, trauma injuries, you know, turning and rotating and doing a knee or anything like that, it's difficult. You never know when it's around the corner, but all you can do is train well and specifically, and just try and get yourself as strong. And like you said, it's about, you know, I've got 10 overs to bowl in an ODI in January, so it's about just getting my body ready for that, in baby steps. You know, a couple of overs last week, couple more overs, up the intensity, so that when it does come to bowl that 10 overs in the game, that, you know, I've done everything I can to give my body the best chance of not breaking down. And that's how I look at it. If I do everything I can off the field to get myself prepared for the load that I'm to expect, you know, whatever happens. But I think, especially having experience of injuries behind me, and, you know, not wanting to miss any more cricket, and just wanting to play more cricket, and I do everything I can to get myself ready to play and to avoid as much injury as possible. But like you said, in professional sport, I don't think you can ever avoid an injury, or it's never 100% written away, but you can do certain things to get yourself accustomed to take loads.
Have any more questions from anyone? Brian.
Yeah, hiya. Barry, it's all great. I want to ask you a little bit about transferable skills. So first of all, I was reading a bit about the history of cricket there recently. I must admit, I was reading about the history of hurling actually, but it overlapped with cricket. And I hadn't realized that in about the 1860s and 70s, cricket was huge in Ireland. And a lot of the cricketers transferred over to playing hurling afterwards. And with the ban in the GA, they had no choice but to play one or the other. But it made me think about, you know, where would Ireland be in the world rankings if you could get the likes of Joe Canning and Henry Shefflin and Tony Kelly all playing cricket? And equally, how much of a loss are you to Dublin hurling, or maybe even to the New York Yankees or somebody, you know? How transferable do you feel your skills as a top level sports person are? And do you think you could have succeeded in other sports, or do you think other people could, you know, like the hurlers, for example, could succeed in cricket?
No, definitely. And like you mentioned, Joe Canning there, I was watching the hurling on the weekend, and to see him hit 4 balls from the sideline in a row over like that, it was remarkable. Yeah. And you do. And then I watched a clip the other day of Glenn Maxwell reverse hitting a ball 100 meters for 6. And you don't really see many guys in world cricket, albeit the best in the world in the IPL, maybe switch hitting the ball like hurlers do for 6. And, you know, I think it's more so if you asked a hurler to try and come and play cricket and the reverse sweep, which I've been playing cricket for 20 odd years, I still can't play the shot. It's incredibly difficult. And even if you ask a batter that, it's not natural to you, it can be quite difficult. Where for some of the hurlers, you know, switching their hands and the grip changes is second nature. So I certainly think that there would be scope for the hurlers themselves to transition to cricket and have remarkable success as batters. As bowlers, I'm not sure where we could transfer, but like you say, the baseball and stuff. Yeah, I think it's funny because they learn from each other. You know, the newest invention in the cricketing world and T20 cricket is the knuckleball, which comes from baseball. So it's it's nice to learn different skills from different sports and see how you can apply them. And the batters these days are now practicing. You know, it's not so much about the top elbow, getting your head into the ball. It's about that baseball stance, getting your weight in the middle of your stance and just swinging as if you're playing baseball and trying to hit the ball as far as you can. So it's funny how the crossovers are. But to go back to your original point, I certainly think that if we do lose a little bit of talent to the hurling pool, because there's some remarkable talent there. There really is. And like I alluded to, the Joe Canning example the other day is just one example of many I could think of. And imagine he was in a green jersey playing cricket for Ireland, what he could be doing.
Has school cricket increased, Barry, you know, in the last, since you got into T20, or is there a rise in the schools playing cricket?
I think it's quite a difficult area, schools cricket, because first of all, it's a seasonal sport here. So you usually have the Easter break at the end of March, the start of April, and then you only have a 6-week block then for cricket. A lot of the guys have exams coming up. It's leaving cert, it's junior cert, or it's other things. So it's very difficult. Where if you think of it, even in the UK, they have an extra month of school. So they have an extra month to implement cricket in the schools. So I think, and having left school, I did a bit of coaching in school back in Michael's and in St Andrews, and it is difficult. It is difficult for. I think it will be difficult, and that you can try and the ifs, buts, and what can we do. But I just think that being a short window with people having other priorities in terms of leaving certain exams and stuff like that, it will be a difficult. It's difficult for cricket to succeed in schools. That's just from my experience of coaching in schools and playing in school.
Like all these things, so as soon as they become a trend, you start to grow it. That's why I asked that question at the beginning about the future of provincial cricket. So, do we have any questions from anybody else? Lorraine.
Thank you. Hi Barry, Lorraine here from UCD. I look after the Indian market for the university, so kind of the recruitment of Indian students and partnerships with Indian institutions. I can definitely confirm that students who may not know much about Ireland definitely know the Irish cricket team, which is great for us when we kind of talk a little bit about that when we meet students for the first time. I suppose you've kind of just touched on it a little bit as well, but my question kind of relates to media interest in Ireland. I suppose we've kind of seen media interest increase in the last few years, even just from my own perspective, kind of just seeing kind of any successes of the Irish team have become kind of a little bit more widely reported in Ireland. Is there anything you think like Cricket Ireland can do to kind of encourage interest or kind of interest from kids, or, you know, just to maybe put cricket in front of a wider audience?
That's a good question. I think now the fact that I think at the end of the day, it comes down, like everyone hears when Ireland win a game of cricket, and I think it's down to us just to continue that trend. You know, we had a great win against England there, great win in the West Indies, to be 2-3 full members this year, Afghanistan included, in March, to win 3 games against full members this year. And if we can, you know, go to the UAE and beat Afghanistan again in January, people will start hearing about it. And I think from that side of things, that's where the interest will come from. People start to gain interest. So I think, like any other sport in Ireland, we're great bandwagon jumpers. We love to jump on the bandwagon when we're doing very well. And you know, and it's a great trend to have. It's great to be known for. I think I love jumping on the bandwagon for other sports, and you know, but that will only come if we start winning games. But from a media side of things, you know, we've played one series in the World Cup Super League against England there. All those 3 games were on Sky Sports. The games against Afghanistan now in January, they'll be televised as well. So hopefully, I think if we can just get more televised games, and it is difficult for Cricket Ireland to get those games televised. I think it's more so the games against Sky Sport. It's more a Sky Sports sort of connection, because everyone seems to have a Sky Sports package. Well, ultimately, I think more games will definitely be on TV, because, and like we alluded to earlier, we now have Test status. We now have more cricket, which is more of an opportunity to play on TV, for people to watch us on TV and to become familiar with cricket and this Irish cricket team as as hopefully a household name in the future. And, you know, if we can get to a World Cup I think especially in the next 3 years, there's 3 World Cups in the next 3 years. So it's a great time for us to get exposure through the media. How it's done, you'll probably have to ask someone in the office. But from my side of things, all I can do is be part of the team on the field and win more games. And I think we'll develop more of a sense of community in Ireland if we can do that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. That's a great answer. And in fact, you're doing some of that already, because just doing interviews and getting the names, because, you know, sports, ultimately a cricket team is led by the members. So, you know, getting as much exposure as possible is really important. Well, I'm really hoping that over the next couple of years, the business group will certainly to be able to support and be involved in a lot more cricket events. So, Barry, I must thank you very much for joining us today, and it's been great to be able to have this informal conversation as our end of year event, because it just creates, you know, business isn't just about business, it's also about sport and about culture and about engaging all aspects of the community. So that's fantastic. I saw that you had your international debut against Sri Lanka. People, I don't talk about it very often, but my father was a left-handed bowler for Sri Lanka many lifetimes ago. So I totally understand some of your experiences around the rate at which you have to play, etc. And of course, you know, as a child, I had to go to the nets every Wednesday, which was not my favorite thing because that ball really hurt. But anyhow, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everybody else for joining us as well. And I look forward. Well, have a great Christmas. Good luck next year. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry.
Very much.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Best of luck.
Thanks, Barry. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a million, Barry. That was great.
No
really
problem.
good.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Really enjoyable.
Hopefully next time we can do it in person and, you know, have a little bit, we can see people face to face. But
yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it's sooner rather than later anyway.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
No problem. Thanks. See you. Bye.
He's a very nice guy. It's a pity there wasn't a bigger turnout.